Hello, everyone. I saw an interesting tweet and it set me thinking, and I just felt I need to share this with you. Let's talk about this. This is something that I always talk about a lot of times, and I think about it. But just seeing the way this guy couched the tweet or post, as it's now called on S, just got me thinking. It's for someone called the handle is Dr. Clandestine. The person is called Jay. He says one thing you learn from American history is how certain persons earned their name and heroism by dedicating their careers to cracking a very specific problem or reform. He said, like Elliot Ness stopped Al Pacino, J. Edgar Hoover built the FBI, Dr. King and civil rights, and he was asking, what's the Nigerian equivalent? You know, every time for me, when people talk about Nigeria and how they feel that Nigeria can never work, there's nothing that can be done about Nigeria. People who are working towards building a better Nigeria, they're only wasting their time, or they are just myopic, or no, all sorts of names and stuff like that. I always think about the America. I always think about United States of America and look at the fact that if you look into the stories, if you look into history, even if you look into books that had the setting towards that era, like the early late 19th century, that's 18 something, 1880, 1870, 1890. You come to the early 20th century, you're talking about 19 or something, 1910, 20, 1930, 1940. There was a lot of corruption in the American society. I mean, there was a particular fellowship that I did, and we had to talk about a particular problem that had happened there that had to do with an American president and someone who was put as head to take care of their parks. You see the way they are very so much invested in their forests and their park, and how to ensure that they are preserved. And this person had to go head on because there were a lot of people who were coming. You know, they would just cut lands, they would just use corruption and everything, get lands for themselves that they would use to build their industries or do whatever it was that they wanted to do. And he had to go to the to the president at that time to let him know of all the things that were happening that weren't right. And at the end of the day, the president didn't know what to do. Yes, there was corruption, but he too needed all of those campaign money and stuff like that. At the end of the day, the guy did resign. But you see people specifically, like this particular tweet said, focusing on certain issues, focusing on certain reforms and getting them sorted. And so even when you look at the 1930s, the mafia was so much in control of American politics. They decided who became, who was going to be president, who was going to be senator, who was going to be this, that. There was a particular statement that was made by one of the then big business people where he said, you can always buy the Congress. And that was something that really got the public infuriated at that time. There was such corruption, open corruption, just like what we have in Nigeria today. But yet there were people who believed in America and believed in the American dream, and they were ready to fight for it. Even when people told them, made them feel like it was helpless. And for me, anytime I think about that, I'm like, well, Nigeria's case is not even as bad as a lot of the things that were happening. If you're talking about kidnappings, how people are being, crime, kidnapped, killed, all sorts of things. These things happen and they overcame it. And so there's no reason why we too should not overcome it. That was a period where a policeman that was not even corrupt was the one that was made to feel like ashamed. There was one particular policeman also that was, credited with a statement. He said for him the fight, why he kept on fighting to ensure that everything was fixed, was that it was the people who were not corrupt that were made to bow their head in shame and stuff like that, and he felt that wasn't proper. And so those are also the things that we also want to see in Nigeria. And there are people who are fighting towards it. I don't have a problem with anybody that says Nigeria is not going to work. I don't have a problem with anybody that says they're not going to put their all in Nigeria. They don't believe in it. They don't want to. It's okay. but don't tell others not to do what they want to do. Don't tell others who want to work, for a better Nigeria, not to put in that effort that they want to see. In the case of the Nigerian equivalent that this person that wrote this tweet was asking of, yes, there are Nigerian equivalents, but unfortunately, they've not been sustained. Like you talk about Dora Akunyili, you talk about NAFDAC. There's no how you're going to talk about NAFDAC and you don't talk about Dora Akunyili. For example, Abuja FCT, as hideous as Nasiru El-Rufai has turned out to be, as tyrannical as he has turned out to be, as incompetent as he has turned out to be, you can't mention FCT Abuja without mentioning Nasiru El-Rufai and the work that he did, to make that city what it is today, because that city was practically overrun and literally destroyed before he came on and brought it back to the master plan that was there. And unfortunately, right now, that master plan is again being destroyed. You look at someone like Nuhu Ribadu, that today is the national security advisor to an illegitimate government, where they are attacking protesters, arresting protesters, arresting people all around. Binance, MDs that were invited to have meetings here. One of them is still in captivity. In fact, his wife just cried that the guy can no longer work, that he has been paralyzed by the Nigerian government. So there are all sorts of things, that are going on. So if you look at Nasiru, if you look at Nuhu Ribadu, you can't talk about what do you call it, EFCC, without talking about Nuhu Ribadu and the things that he put into Nuhu Ribadu. I always say Nuhu Ribadu was the reason why I got my voter's card in 2011 and I voted for him. I didn't vote for Jonathan, I didn't vote for Buhari, I voted for Nuhu Ribadu because I felt this was a young blood coming in. He was going to do, the right thing. The way he acted, the way he was so competent and acted with such character and capacity while he was chairman of EFCC. But today, of course, if you ask me to vote for Nuhu Ribadu, I will say to you, God forbid, that would not happen. After 1993, for me to digress a little bit to give you background, after 1993, that was the first time I voted. I was 19 at the time of the voting. I was able to vote, and I was so excited that I had a chance to participate in those that we elect, the people that we govern Nigeria. What happened? The election was annulled, the 1993 election, and it pained me so much that I vowed that I will never vote again in Nigeria until 2011, when Nuhu Ribadu ran for office again, and that brought me. So what I'm trying to say is that we've had a lot of people. You look at Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, and you look at due process. These are things that the reforms that she did in due process and ensuring, the kind of accountability that is in place when you're going to spend public funds and stuff like that. But unfortunately, when these people leave, there's no sustainability. Other people come and they destroy all of these things. But I'm going to round up here by saying to you, the people who want to destroy Nigeria, they never give up. They never stop. They keep going. Every time you see them, they are going on, and it's some of them spend decades. Some of them spend half a century just focus on destroying Nigeria. And then, some of us, we just come because we've worked for 3 months, 4 months. You hear things like, oh, I gave my all during the election. So, and then it was rigged and we never participate. I was there once, maybe when I voted, and I said I won't do it again. But hey, good must be more tenacious than evil. If the people that mean evil for Nigeria do not give up, Tinubu has been on for over 3 decades or maybe 4 decades. Before all of that time during MKO Abiola, he was there going through with him. In the last over 20 decades, when he became governor, he's been set to come in and destroy Nigeria, which is something that he's currently doing. He hasn't given up. So if Tinubu that wanted to destroy Nigeria never gave up for years and years, even when Buhari turned him into like a houseboy, discarded him like a used garment and threw him away, he stayed on. I remember 2019 election, Buhari will go and bring Tinubu from wherever, from that background he was thrown into, brought him on for them to start traveling in that presidential jet because he needed him during the 2019 election. He stayed on to destroy Nigeria. And so you, whose Nigeria is being destroyed, that you're feeling the impact of the suffering, you're saying that you cannot stay on, you're giving up. Well, as for me, giving up is not an option. What about you? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.